So this week's discussion brought up a lot of really good topics to talk about, and I feel like they're really touchy subjects, so I feel like they get avoided quite often, but I'm glad that this is an open, comfortable space that we're all able to share how we feel. So the first question I'm going to answer is, do we fight against change change we see as harmful, or try to work with them? And I said absolutely, especially this day and age, with all the different protests going on for equality and the fight for basic human rights, when certain laws or regulations don't align with America's beliefs to be free and the land of the free and, the dreamland, or even just abiding to basic human rights. People are willing to fight and use their voices to make change, and I think that's a wonderful thing. And I think it's also important that we advocate and speak up for those who can't use their voices, and we should use our privilege to be able to. I think that it's not like an all or nothing thing, and it should be something that if we can't fight for complete change, that we try to negotiate with. And that's how I kind of feel with some other things as well, like, I don't know, certain rules or regulations. If they're not willing to go fully with you, then meeting halfway in a mutual agreement. Do we implement new ways of raising children? How much do we look to the future, and how much do we fall back on tradition? I think this varies from family to family, and your neighbor was raised differently than how you were raised, and then you're going to parent and raise your kids differently than how you were raised, or maybe the same. And I don't think there's like one whole way or one right way to raise your children, but I think just adapting with how society changes and not always sticking to the old ways. If the old ways work for you, okay, but don't put that pressure on other people to conform, and that goes both ways as well. Like one example I can think of in my experience growing up is like in our church, the Catholic Church, they wanted you to conform like to a certain way, a certain standard as a family, and I came to a point in my teenage years where I didn't agree with what was going on, and I didn't feel like I wanted to conform just because everyone else was, and so I decided not to get confirmed. And although this was breaking tradition in my family, it caused some waves with my grandma. She didn't think it was the right choice for me. It all comes back to my morals and beliefs, and I don't think there's one right way to do it. So the third question I really liked was, what are some risks and benefits of canceling history? Some risks would be not being able to educate future generations on why we got to where we are today. Some people see history as offensive, and I can see now how some things are offensive, but to me it's a beautiful thing, and it's how our country's evolved and how the world's evolved, and having the knowledge to know why we're here today is an important thing. And I don't really, in my opinion, see any benefits of canceling history. I think it's a very touchy subject, especially with a bunch of monuments wanting to come down and people tearing them down or abusing them, and I just think it's kind of messing with the values of our country and our culture at that point. This last question that I really liked was, how do you learn to enjoy the scenery in a world where the danger signs, warning lights, and the maps are constantly updating? This was something ever since probably high school, I wanted to go into teaching, and at this time a lot of school shootings were occurring, and it kind of steered me away from wanting to go into teaching. In the ed program here, they had 2 teachers who went to NMU who were in the Parkland shooting in Florida. And the one guy actually held the door against the shooter and he got shot. And I have to admit, like, that was a big turnoff for me, just hearing that, how frequently it happens, and that fear always being in the back of my head. And even just like going into movie theaters, I always like pick my spot like close to a door or close to an exit, or I'll evaluate where the exits are, or even just in a classroom I sometimes do that. And like it's hard not to think about with everything going on nowadays, but I think what I want to get from it and from everything is that I don't want to stop living my life because of events that have occurred. I'm not going to stop going to concerts because of the event that happened in Las Vegas. I'm not going to limit myself because of fear. And I think being cautious and being scared are 2 different things, and just being cautious is a better way to live life and the fullest way to live life, in my opinion. So I really enjoyed this week's discussion. Very touchy subjects, but I'm excited to hear what everyone else has to say and to get everyone's additional feedback on my initial discussion.